All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce my great friend, Rafael Jamas. He is a producer, creative director, and photographer based out of LA. So, Rafa, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to see you again. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. So I'm really, really excited. I'm doing good today. Chill day, so can't complain.
Absolutely, man. Likewise, it's great to see you. I mean, it's crazy how, we both studied at, University of Miami, and you were just an awesome creative partner in regards to, making short films and that sort of thing. So it's such a thrill to see you again, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, dude. And we'd had a lot of fun, and it was really, really awesome to like study the same thing and build that connection in those networks because I think that's what the value is for college. So I'm really happy we still get to connect all these years after.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's just dive right into the interview. Rafa, just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your story, essentially. We'll get into more specific questions along the way, but just give us a brief introduction about, who you are and what your story is, essentially.
Yeah, most definitely. So my name is Rafael. As you know, I went to the University of Miami. I was born in Colombia and I was raised in Miami all my life. Did school over there, and then what I studied in college was motion pictures production as well as theater arts. I graduated in 2020 around December time, and then I moved to LA pursuing a career in entertainment. And that, it evolved into my passion and my number one passion when I got to LA, or at least my, landing foot of when I got to LA was photography. I was shooting a little bit before I moved. And then when I got to LA, it was very easy for me to do it and continue to build that passion of photography because I used to work at a modeling agency and running, the back end, front end, stuff like that. And that's kind of how I learned a lot about LA in itself, how the businesses ran, what people look for over here and stuff. Then after that, I started working in comedy space. I was a personal assistant to a comedian. I got to, fly around. I got to do a lot of different tasks, and that all involves social media, content, images, videos, which, as we'll talk on later, content is king. And then later on, I decided I just really wanted to do my own thing. I've always said I wanted to be an executive producer, and I think that goal is very, very close because that's what I'm working towards on right now. And yeah, sorry, I don't know if that answered your question. I was just trying to like give you a brief recap of like the last 2 years, I guess. But that's my story. I'm a photographer. I love art. I like to make things that I can put up on the wall. I love collaboration. And I love ideas. I like getting ideas and getting it from my head to screen and doing the whole post, pre, and then like all the stuff that has to do with production is what really, really drives me. I'm just a lover of frames. So there you go.
That's awesome. No, that's a perfect introduction. And just to funnel off that, I know you moved to LA, a couple years ago. So how has the film industry evolved from when you first moved to LA until now?
So, in these last 2 years, it's evolved. It hasn't evolved in actually, that's a pretty loaded question. But I would say because it has evolved in major ways, but it also hasn't changed since like 2020 in a lot of ways. I would say the biggest thing that's definitely happened since I moved has been just how important like social media has become in terms of content, in terms of who you are as a creator, as a whatever. It's become key because at the end of the day, as you know, a lot of the things that happen in today's world is pushed through marketing, and numbers equals money. So a lot of it is clout driven. A lot of it is things that have to do with just like how much eyes you attract. So a lot of that has to do with content. It has to do with a lot of content. But aside from that, I would say Hollywood and politics kind of are going like hand in hand right now. So I would say in these past 2 years, you've seen a lot of movies change their perspective and their messages and stuff like that. And whether some people agree or some people don't agree, I think it's caused a big divide in these past 2 years as to what's a good movie and what's not, what's lazy writing, because it just seems all very lazy and money grabbish. That's for in my opinion, that's been the last 2 years, especially when you take account to like Marvel films and just like things that are just targeted to a certain audience are very they've lost a lot of quality. And streaming has obviously exploded. Even in these last 2 years, a lot even more. So it just seems like a lot of producers and production companies have really just have have put quality aside just for quantity so they can capitalize on those monthly payments. So that's one big thing that I would say has changed a lot. It's you won't find nowadays we're getting better movies. But in these last 2 years, there was for sure a rough period of time where a lot of the stuff was really unwatchable. And that's my insight of being here and going to the movies. I go to the movies at least 4 or 5 times a month. Um, and yeah, that's one huge change. I think it's like they let politics be in Hollywood way too much sometimes. Things are changing a little bit now, but for sure that landscape is a weird medium.
So, well, what do you mean exactly by like politics? Is it, I guess certain castings, or I guess, just trying to, as you said, like comparison in regards to like cloud and that sort of thing? Like I guess what specifically are they looking for? Like if a viewer wanted to break into that industry, is there something like very specific that they would be looking for? Or I guess maybe it's just like free flowing and ever changing. What is
Yeah,
your
no, well, Hollywood is always free flowing. The pendulum always swings like one way and it goes to the other. What I mean by politics, I mean it's just the type of writing and what they're trying to appeal to. There's just a lot of I mean, if we want to speak freely, there's just a lot of like for example, you take some Marvel shows nowadays on Disney Plus, there's a lot of backlash because um I guess to make like for example, you take a show like She-Hulk. That show got a lot of backlash just because it was devoid of logic and it was primarily structured to kind of like send a message, which is not a bad message at all. But they wrote it in a very lazy way, and that takes away from the art. So when you're trying to send a message through your, entertainment, you can do it in different ways. Uh, in ways that, you've watched a lot of movies or some movies that have impacted you, and they deliver messages perfectly. But we just got a lot of lazy writing to deliver messages, and that kind of ruined the art of TV because we just got an overabundance of lazy writing and trash dialogue. And I'm not necessarily saying it's everything. I'm just saying it kind of, pretty much right after Avengers Endgame, things went downhill.
yeah.
Um and yeah, it's not really about, I don't have anything bad, or I'm not against anything that's primarily being like, like said or pushed out in these shows. It's just I am a lover of cinema, and when characters or whatever of stories are true to what they're supposed to be. And we just got, a lot of different things, whether it be, a lot of the castings or things that people have a lot of problems with, which a lot of the time people shouldn't have problems with. It's just the laziness and, you know, the amount of money these studios want to make. It all comes from greed. It really, really all comes from greed. And like I said, loaded question because the political ideologies from the left, from the right, Hollywood favors the majority, and yeah, take that as you will.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's just been a lot. It's just been a lot. Hollywood is a crazy, crazy business, and I haven't even stepped my foot fully in it. I've only been here 2 years, but luckily I've managed to talk to a lot of people in the industry, meet a lot of actors, meet a lot of producers, and yeah, everyone has their different opinions, but at the end of the day, everyone's still trying to make good stuff. And now we're getting back to it. But yeah.
Right, right. Okay. So, as a photographer, what was the most interesting photo shoot you've ever worked on?
The most interesting photo shoot I've ever worked on. Mm, Let me see. That's a good question. I would say the first one that comes to mind, I did it this year. It was a little bit ago. I was coming up with a concept. Pretty much I was going through Pinterest. I was looking for something very kind of like dark and moody, but at the same time really elegant. And I just had this idea of like black surroundings, warm spotlight on a beautiful model. And as the idea developed, we ended up having two models for the shoot, and it was my first time shooting double. Um, and I think that was the most interesting one because of all the elements that went into play. I was shooting two people. We had great styling, we had great makeup, we had a great team. It was an awesome production, but I'm very happy with the results because it was interesting. It was really cool to see it all plan out, and it was really cool to to explore that idea and see what really can come out of it, even even actually while shooting and not having certain things planned that ended up just kind of working out. So that shoot was interesting because there was a lot of trial and error on the spot. And it was one of my first big collaborative shoots, whereas as a photographer, you're pretty much the director of the shoot. So I got to I got to like have my own team, and now that happens all the time, so it's not like as crazy. But that was the first time that I was just like, oh, this is really awesome, and I found that to be like a really great experience. And I love those things. I love how much how much variety I got from the shoot, from that shoot. And yeah, in terms of interesting, like it was awesome and it was interesting, but I don't know, I'm trying to think of like something that's crazy that's happened. But no, nothing crazy that's happened to make it be like, oh, that's crazy. But I think I just like to run a chill set. Me and my roommate and I, we both produce these sets. So, we always try to run a chill set, make sure everyone's good. But definitely that shoot, just because I don't know, I love it. I love what I managed to do. And yeah, it's called Anya and Bianca. That's the shoot. I don't know if you saw it, but it's the two girls, one of them blonde, one of them brown. And it was interesting because it was a perfect contrast by accident. Like, yeah, I casted these girls, but it looked really awesome on camera. And after the editing, it was just a perfect contrast of two different people. So yeah, that's what made it really interesting for me. Just like the trial and errors, the contrast, the different clothing, the different makeup. We had a hairstylist that day. So yeah, I like that too.
For sure. No, and to anyone who's interested in checking out Rafa's, photography, we're gonna leave, a link in the comments with, his Instagram handle and so forth. So make sure you definitely check that out. But moving on to the next question, in the photography space, which camera would you recommend to our viewers and why? Like, is there a specific camera that you love shooting on and you just get the best results from?
Definitely. It also depends on, are you a beginner? Are you like medium? Like, what are you trying to do? Right. So I'll answer kind of like both. If you're a beginner photographer, if you're a beginner photographer, I would highly recommend going like a Sony route. A Sony is very easy to like my first camera was a Sony A6 100, which is, I don't know, in today's market, it probably goes for around $700, $800. But that, getting familiar with something just small, compact, you're not going for a $2,000, $3,000 camera at first, is ideal, is very ideal. And especially Sony's, because most of the time they're very good in low light. And as a beginner photographer, you're probably going to be out and about different places trying to like really hone your craft. And if you have something that's versatile in all places, I think that's perfect. Like a Sony, like one of those, like the A6 models, I would say are great. And you can learn a lot from it. And there's obviously a lot of YouTube tutorials, and they're very good in all types of scenarios. They have a great variety of lenses that are not too expensive, and the quality is great. And yeah, I don't think realistically, if you go for a Sony as a beginner photographer, you're pretty much set. You could always go for Canon if you plan to like stay on that Canon family, but I also do think getting a Sony, then jumping to Canon is a better thing to do, because now you're familiar with more interfaces and you're familiar with a different type of camera once you make that jump. And you can see like what to use this one for and what to use the other. Because at the end of the day, you can, I can take an amazing picture and someone could be like, oh, what camera did you use? Most of the time it's not really about the camera. It's about your eye. It's about your artistic eye and how you edit and how you compose and stuff like that. But for sure, anything Sony for the beginning is great. And then my camera, I use a Canon 5D Mark IV, which is a DSLR. So it's not outdated now. It's not super outdated, but it's still a very good camera. Like that's a camera a lot of professional photographers use till this day, even in the mirrorless age. And I love that camera. I think that camera is perfect. It's literally meant to do beautiful things. Um, so yeah, that's I would definitely recommend going those routes. But my top tier, it's like you cannot beat Canon regarding cameras for, once you really step up and you want something better, go with Canon for sure.
Awesome. Okay. So, you mentioned that you've worked on, commercial acting, comedy, fashion projects. What was your creative approach to these different niches? I mean, they're kind of completely different worlds in itself. So, was there a certain mindset that you had to adopt, when you had to approach these different niches, or like, how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, most definitely. So primarily throughout my jobs here in LA, I've still always kept the artistic side alive. Because there's been jobs that I've had, like for example, when I was working in comedy, there's jobs that just have nothing to do with there's like at least some parts of the job that have nothing to do with like my passions, and that takes your soul away sometimes when you're working 24/7 and you're moving around a lot. So I always had to stay creative somehow, whether it be set up a shoot every month, or just something that really gets my visual stimulated. I don't know. But definitely always looking for inspiration in whatever you do. Like for example, when I was on tour with a comedian, um I would find any opportunity to take a good picture of him or of the crowd, of like the stage, and I got some pretty good results most of the time. So I was always trying to look for the cinema and everything. I know that sounds a little corny, but I do think if you look at things as frames, as you can see, literally all around me, there's frames. I'm speaking to you in a frame. If you can think of life as that, and if you really want to capture the moment, that's what I tried. I had to do that. I had to do that, or else I was going to go crazy. That's the artistic approach I had, just always studying what's around me and what could look good on camera, just for future reference, just for things that I like to do. Always keep your artistic eye open, and maybe that way things don't become so mundane in a day to day, because there's a lot of jobs that a lot of people don't like doing, but you have to find a way to really make something out of it. So that's what I did. And then for my first job, it was really easy to keep my artistic stuff going, because a lot of the times I would be dealing with people who whether it be models or photographers or producers or blah blah. um I would just get shown images every single day. Every single day, I just go through images, go through photos, see different photographers, and that really, sparked something in me. I'm like, okay, I can do stuff like that. Obviously practice takes time, but it really motivated me to do as good as a job as the people I admire. And yeah, it just made me want to go out and shoot, and made me want to go out and do stuff. Because in LA, it's a playground. You come over here and everyone needs content, everyone needs shots, and yeah, you can go outside and do something creative pretty much every day if you have the leisure to. So yeah.
Great. Okay. So the next question is, and this is kind of just a newer type of thing, what is your opinion on AI, and do you think it will benefit the film industry? I mean, we just see it popping up everywhere, Chat GPT, people utilizing all these resources and stuff, and, generating results much quicker. So, I was just curious, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a double-edged sword. It's most definitely a double-edged sword. Have you watched Mission Impossible yet? Anyone?
Not yet. I've been hearing great things about it though. I know it has like
Yeah,
a
it's
like
a
a
great
98
movie.
on Rotten Tomatoes or
No,
something.
it's a fantastic movie. You should definitely go watch it. This is relating to the question, I promise. But it's almost scary, right? Because first, there's a lot of hidden messages in that movie, a lot of like, biblical stuff, a lot of different stuff. The movie has to do with AI, right? And sometimes they're literally just, the main bad guy is pretty much AI. It's an artificial intelligence that we built, we made it smarter, and then it had a life of its own. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, but Hollywood knows something we don't. Maybe that's why they're hoarding so much money at the top. But it's like they're literally talking to us. They're like saying, it's like, well, yeah, this is going to get out of control eventually. And we're going to see it get out of control very fast. I do think it benefits the film industry, in a lot of different ways, whether it be like, well, let me take that back for a second. It does benefit it for certain things, maybe like face changes and stuff like that. When I'm talking about like the CGI aspect of it, because at the end of the day, these things are going to be so good, eventually, unfortunately, we won't need CGI artists. And that's going to be up to the Hollywood people to determine if they want a computer, or if they want a person or a multiple team of people to make an animation. So that's the terrible part. Just like technology, as technology as technology evolves, it takes away jobs because technology is meant to make things easier. So that's tragic. We can't really allow that to happen. So how do we really adapt from that? Um, but in terms of entertainment, I do think, like, for example, like AI helps me a lot. Well, when I edit, Photoshop has like a new AI tool, and sometimes there's things that I don't really want to mask out or take out, so I just highlight it with the tool, literally type in, erase this, add this, do this, and it saves time. But I do think it's a major, major double-edged sword, and a lot of jobs will be lost. And for example, relating to film, something that's crazy. I don't know if you saw it, but pretty much they're planning to something that was proposed was to for background workers was to scan their faces.
Oh, wow.
Like you go into a set, they scan you, they scan your body, your face, and then they have your likeness forever. So they only pay you once, probably the day rate of whatever that production was, and then they use your likeness forever on anything they want, and
Oh
they
my
don't have to
God.
pay you, no residuals, no nothing. You just get scanned, and then they use your face and probably your body for anything they want, which is freaking scary.
Yeah,
And
that
that sucks. That sucks because, like I told you at the beginning, when we first started the call, a lot of people work background to supplement their interests or to supplement, like, a lot. That's how a lot of people start. It's a stepping stone for actors. You go and you work background, you see how sets work, blah blah. If you don't have the experience from before, but that's scary. It's scary that technology can just replicate humans, replicate their voice, change their voice, do all that stuff. I'm not in favor for it, but then again, then again, technology is not going anywhere anytime soon.
right.
And we have to, that's the natural course of humanity, unfortunately. It's just it's here to stay. So we just have to find a way to control it, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an interesting time. I mean, clearly, some scary parts, but obviously, I guess some sort of benefits in regards to the speed at which we can produce things. But I guess we just kind of have to adapt with the times. All right. So, how has the SAG writers and actors strike affected the film industry?
It put its a standstill on everything. Right now I can drive 10 minutes to my local studio, and there'll be actors and writers protesting outside. Everything's a standstill right now because people aren't able to survive off what they're paying. And right now, streaming, we have to adapt yet again because people don't get paid residuals as they used to be for a lot of people, a lot of actors nowadays, even the bigger ones, medium-sized ones in terms of their career, have been able to survive off things like residuals for a long time. But these things have changed over the years of streaming. And now it's just not the same. It's really, really hard to make a living as an actor. It's really, really hard to make a living as a writer. I mean, it's hard to make a living as a creative person in general, but it's really not fair that it's just not fair that a lot of the best creative people for writers and actors who actually make the marketing of certain shows and movies like what it is, because if it's names attached to things, and then they're just capitalizing so heavily on people for their own benefit, and they're getting millions and billions of dollars, and they're paying us like 1%. I think I read a statistic that's basically like, Tom Holland made an X amount of money for the Spider-Man movies. I think he only almost made like $2 million for like from the Spider-Man movies, if not a little bit less, like 1 point something million. The studios and that movie grossed big time. Those movies grossed big time numbers. The studios made 100 more times than Tom Holland did. Like
Right.
these executives made 100 times more than Tom Holland. Stuff like that just boggles my mind because there's a lot of wealth at the top that's just literally greed. It's literally greed. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we're protesting. I think it's great that we're standing up for these rights. It just sucks that we have to go through it right now because people are trying to make a living. It's impacting everybody's livelihood. Now a lot of people like have to go out and find part-time jobs for the meantime. They have to just supplement their income in other different ways. So it's a frustrating situation, but at the end of the day, it's for the right thing to do. But
Right.
everything's at a standstill, and we're just needing some change. It's a waiting game right now.
Right. And last question. So, what is your advice to an aspiring filmmaker, photographer, or actor who wants to move to LA?
Well, do it. Uh, I know that's easier, obviously easier said than done, dude. But if you have a dream, if you're trying to accomplish something, with that side of your brain, if you're trying to make that a living, um, find the right steps, whether it be look for jobs out here, look for opportunities, anything. It's all about reaching out. It's all about trying to connect, eventually make the move and make the move because you want to be in the epicenter where all these things happen. I've met so many great people who I wouldn't have met if I wouldn't have moved. So do it and hone your craft, practice your craft every day. Study the people that you admire, the people that you want to work with one day. Because before you know it, you're probably going to work with them on a set at some point. Study your craft. Always just be a student of the game, but don't be afraid to take that leap. Because if you don't, you're not going to get anywhere. They say shoot or shoot. I have a million like little like sayings for this type of thing. It's like day one or one day. If you're not going to do it, if you're not going to do it today or tomorrow, you have to like plan when it's going to be, and just collaborate. Find things to do that get you in that collaborative space. Um, and sometimes that's, whether you move to LA, you move to Atlanta, you move to New York, wherever your heart calls you, go there and have the adventure, especially if you're younger. If you're a younger individual, you have nothing to lose realistically if you just to try to find. I know it's like it's so cheesy, but like the whole finding your dream, pursuing your dream. If you don't do it, you're just gonna be miserable for the rest of your life. I 100% guarantee you that. Like if you don't push for the things you want, you're gonna be miserable. So try. You have to try. That's my biggest piece of advice. You have to try, regardless. It's trial and error. Everything in life is trial and error. So yeah.
Rafa, this was awesome. To anyone viewing, please feel free to check out Rafa's Instagram and social media links in the comments below. Rafa, thank you so much again for being a guest speaker.
Of course.
And to anyone viewing, if you're interested in being a guest speaker, please feel free to email us. And yeah, can't wait to see you all again in a future episode. And have a wonderful day.